Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not speaking to you as any expert in human rights law or even international relations. Far from that, I'm just another ordinary citizen of the world, born and raised in the biggest slum in Uganda, the ghetto of Kamwokya. That's where I come from. My passion to fight for freedom was indeed not born out of a classroom. Because I'll tell you, I'm not a professional of anything other than my singing and dancing. My passion to fight for freedom was born out of the streets. It was born out of my experience growing up from the poorest of the poorest in Uganda. And indeed, those are the people that face the worst human rights violation in my country. And I know that many of you have come to know me out of my experience of torture and repression and abuse of my rights by the authorities in Uganda and the military in my country. And while I am very grateful for the attention, I must assert it that my experience, my own experience, however nasty it was, is nothing compared to what very many men and women go through every day in my country. Many have been arrested, many have disappeared, and indeed many have had to pay the ultimate price. So while I'm very lucky to be standing before you today, ladies and gentlemen, I must inform the world that another activist, an academic giant, a woman called Dr. Stella Nyanzi, continues to rot in jail. She continues to be incarcerated simply because she wrote a poem that criticizes President Museveni, who has been president of Uganda for the last 33 years.
What's her name?
His name is Yoweri Museveni, General Yoweri Museveni. The lady is called Dr. Stella Nyanzi. She was a lecturer in our university. She's an activist for human rights, and she wrote a poem criticizing President Museveni's policies of stepping on human rights, and that is the reason why she continues to be incarcerated in jail. Many young people in Uganda continue to rot in jails, and yes, many of them have disappeared, never to be seen again. Ladies and gentlemen, without trying to get you emotional, I know that our story is not any unique to other stories across the world. I know that all over the world there's oppression, there's injustice, even here in America. So while we continue to strongly get engaged in our own struggle back home, we recognize the struggles of all the people all over the world, and we continue to think about them and pray for them. And whenever we can act, we would love to act with them. And ladies and gentlemen, I also want to mention that while the human rights all over the world continue to deteriorate, we also have reason to celebrate. We know that movements have come up over time. We know that people have pushed back against dictatorships, against oppression, and against injustice. Where I come from in Africa, you've seen movements putting an end to dictatorial regimes like in Algeria and in Sudan, and soon in Uganda. So we have reason to celebrate. However, my call this afternoon to all of us is not to give up. Never to give up. When I was tortured to near death by the military in Uganda, I had every reason to give up. But when I looked behind me and saw the millions upon millions of people, especially the young people that draw inspiration from me, that keep going, those that are inspired just by seeing me stand up confidently and strongly. When I thought about my driver, Yasin Kauma, who was killed that very night, I said to myself, I cannot give up. I said strongly to myself that giving up would be betraying his sacrifice and the very many sacrifices of men and women that have had to pay the ultimate price in the struggle for freedom and life. And yes, when I was crying in that lonely military jail, I remembered the words of Reverend Jesse Jackson, who said, tears and sweat are both salty, but tears will get you sympathy. However, sweat will get you change.